Interest rates are going up. Trying to get ahead is mighty, mighty tough. Bill collectors at my door. I need someone to help me raise my credit score.
Welcome to another edition of the Polto Show. Today, we're going to separate the facts from the fiction. You know, you've heard many things about credit, many things on your internet, from your family, from your friends, from your associate, and you've been held bondage to the credit bureaus, the credit cards, for so long and not knowing your credit rights. And the reason why I know all this, in 1987, my first book was called In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term? And I'm going to tell you why I wrote that book, In America. As you see in the first book, In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term? The guy's behind bars. Well, I'm hostage too, as you are. Today, for the first time, I'm going to separate the facts from the fiction. We're going to unlock these. I don't know how these prisoners take it in jail, but I'm going to unlock the bars, and we're going to give you your freedom back of what you can do. So we're taking the handcuffs off and free ourselves from the credit problems and the credit bureaus, and you're going to know the facts. You're going to watch this tape over and over again, and this way you'll understand more so, as I always say, than the system. And by the way, my first book, In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term, anybody that watches this video over and over again, I want you to email me, because it's not, you can't buy my first book. I have 5 books out there, but you can't buy my first book. Anyone that watches this video, and tell your friends to watch it, email me, and until it runs out, you will get a complimentary copy. You won't have to pay for In America's Bad Credit a Prison Term. And the reason why I'm saying that and the reason why I'm doing this is because if you go to Amazon.com, the first book is out of circulation, but some of them were going for $100 and some. Well, America, you're gonna get assigned until it runs out. Yes, I do have still In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term. I still have it. So anybody that sees it, you could email it to me, make a comment about the show today, and I will ship out to you my complimentary book, In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term. Now, why did I title this book, In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term? Pretty harsh, and this was done in 1987. In 1987, one consumer came up to me. And when I said we're going to separate the facts from the fiction, can your credit be corrected in 30 days? We're going to go into that because the answer is yes. We're going to separate everything that you've been told on the internet, your friend, even attorneys. You're going to actually hear what your credit rates are. But in 1987, the reason why I wrote this book is one consumer came up to me and said, you know what, Pearl, I'm getting a divorce. And I'm having problems getting a mortgage. And there's something with my credit report. Well, I knew nothing about credit in 1980-something. And I told her that. I said, look, I'm an insurance agent. I do everything, but I don't know anything about credit. So she said, just take a look at it. Just take a look at my credit report. And I did. And when I looked at it, just my common sense said, there's something wrong with this picture. There's something wrong here. And she said, why? And I said, because this one column on a credit report is not making sense. It said date close / verify. Well, I mean, today, present day, that column's not there no more. But it was back then. It said date close / verify. And I said, this is not making sense. Because if you had an account, the old law, which I thought back then, it wasn't no 30-day law that I was aware of, and you weren't aware of, the 7-year statute, everybody's aware of that under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Well, that statute came into existence, and when I said, well, if you opened up an account in 1970, which means, and you stopped paying that bill what would happen? Well, 1977, by law, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, that was supposed to have been removed, deleted, but it wasn't. And it wasn't because that same company was verifying your account, let's say 5 years later. Shocker? It was to me back then. So if they verified it 5 years later, which is, let's say, 1975, they verified it, you would have to stay in prison for 7 more years from that date. So you were always in prison with the credit. And what I didn't like about it, that's what I didn't like about it. So a friend of mine, we went up to Harrisburg. This is how gutsy I was back then. I went up to Harrisburg and I sat down, and it was the chairman of the board. It was a round table. And they said to me, and I told them the problem, that column date close / verify, and they said, what would you want? And I thought, well, I'm a nobody back then. What do I want? What's going on? So I came home from my trip from Harrisburg, and I said to my friends, there's something wrong here. I didn't have any books. I wasn't appearing on television. I wasn't an author. I wasn't nothing. And they're calling me up, the chairman of the board, to say, what do I want? And then I realized something was wrong. And then I seen what was wrong. It was that column. You were hostage. So what made me, I sat down and I wrote my book, In America Is Bad Credit a Prison Term. Not only I wrote my book, I decided to sue one of the major credit bureaus. And the reason why I sued was because of that column. How can anybody get credit if they're held hostage? How can anybody, when you're sitting back waiting on a credit report and you're saying, well, I'll wait for the 7 years, you'll never have the 7 years. Or if you have bad credit and you're still waiting and you're saying, well, I don't need to wait 7 years now. I have to wait till I even get my house, a credit card, anything, even a car. But you would never see that day. So if it wasn't for me writing this one book, and this one book is like history, because here's what happened over this one book. I wrote to after I sued the credit bureau, naturally, no attorney now understood credit laws. I wasn't a paralegal back then, but no attorneys understood credit laws. So they only understood bankruptcy laws. So that was bad news that I found out that no attorney understood credit laws. And I thought, now what? So I had to pro se my own case. I did win. But I won just with the common sense. I had demanded jury trial even. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I demanded jury trial. But it was all white-collar people on the jury. I know, it looked like talk about a reality show. But with that, that's when I wrote this book. And I send it to every radio station, every TV station worldwide. And I said, we don't have a credit problem out there. People don't understand we have a credit problem out there. We have a credit problem. Please put me on your show. And all the radio stations in one section, which was the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, they had me on the show. And everybody was getting the point just a little bit. They were understanding it just a little bit. But then I was getting frustrated because I was going in circles to all the radio shows. And then I decided, well, you know what? I don't have a manager, don't have a producer. Let me write to some major TV shows in New York. And that's what I did. I wrote to some major TV shows in New York, and I sent them a complimentary copy. Now, who wrote this? Not a publisher, me. As you see, I mean, if you ever seen it, the back of the picture, long hair, different style. And what happened when I wrote this book and I sent it to New York, one person contacted me. And they said, we would like to discuss the book you send us. And I said, oh, I can talk to you for hours on this. And I explained to them what happened. And after talking to them for 1 hour, she called me back and she said, nah, we changed our mind. We don't want you to come on a tape show. We want a live show. We want you to come here tonight for tomorrow's live show. I was all excited. Not for the TV, but I was all excited because I was going to get my word out. Finally, I was going to get my word out. So that night, packed my bags, went to New York. And who was one of my hosts back then was Matt Lauer, Renee Hamley, and all the old school from, when I appeared on that show, they received many, 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 many calls where they called me back up and said, "Can you come back? You're more popular than the president right now on this topic." And I was in my glory, not because I was selling in America's bad credit a prison term, but because people got the picture. They were understanding it. And they were understanding it to the point where they didn't know what their rights were. And then this book created history, because one of the publishers from that show naturally went to Berkeley's publisher, and said, "Write another book, Pearl, but write a thicker book." Well, by then I was a credit pro, because I was doing everything. I was doing research. I was doing everything. And that book was called Pearl Polto's Easy Guide to Good Credit. That you can find on your eBay. That you can find on Amazon. And then I went on a book tour, because now I was on a mission. I was on a mission because I knew something that you did not know. And I was angry. So they put me on a book tour. When I came back from the book tour, I knew all the producers, and I said, "You know what? I'm going to go back to the old thing. I'm going to write another book called We the People Have Credit Rights Too." And I did. Because each time that something came out, that's something that I learned that you didn't know, couldn't wait to put it into another book. Right now, I have 5 books out there going. My biggest book was the Credit Lifeline book, which you see on my website. And then my latest book was Are We Doomed? Now, in the America's Bad Credit a Prison Term, the old cliche, let's separate the facts from the fiction. And let's stop holding you bondage when it comes to your credit rights. Is there a 7-year statute? Of course, you hear it from everybody. The 7-year statute of limitation. So if you have a credit problem, you can't pay your bills, I'm done. I'm done for 7 years. But then there's the 30-day statute. Yeah, a 30-day statute. Now, how does the 30-day statute work? You have a minimum. Let's take it back a step where I'm going to relate to you, the consumer. You have all these bills. You lose your job. You had an operation. And there's certain things that you can't pay anymore. No offense to you, but you can't pay them anymore. So what do? You contact the creditor. And you say to that creditor, "I can't pay the $100 anymore. I can only pay $25. My husband's out of work. I'm out of work." And they say to you, no. You got to pay the $100. Well, you can't. They're just telling you. So you say to them, "Well, I can't pay you nothing." They're saying to you, "Then don't pay us nothing." Well, what happens after that? Here's the steps. What happens after that? Please, if you got to listen to this tape over and over again, please do so until it sinks in your head. Because once you cannot pay that creditor, the creditor now naturally wants his money. Yes, they want their money, but they're not getting it from you, because they just told you, if you can't pay $100, I don't want your money. I don't want $25. So they go to their accounting. Their accounting says, let's write it off as a tax write-off. So they do. That bank writes it off as a tax write-off. Now, when you look at a credit report, you're going to see it'll say profit and loss and charge-off. That's what the word means. Profit and loss and charge-off means they went to their accounting, and their accounting has written off this account. Now, what happens after that fact? After they've written off this account, where does it go? You signed a contract with that creditor. So where does it go? And they got paid. You can't even pay them anymore. You can't pay them because they're double dipping. They took it as a tax deduction. So where does it go? They sell it to bill collectors. This is where the old cliche is, and one day we will do a complete show just on bill collectors. But they sell it to a bill collector. And that bill collector is saying, hey, can I buy this? The pennies on the dollar. Of course you can. Here, take it. We've already got paid as a tax write-off. It's not that you don't owe that bill, but you cannot pay your creditor anymore. Now, did you make a contract with that bill collector? Of course not. This is why I'm totally against bill collectors. You don't make any contracts with bill collectors. They're just in it. And I have the solutions, believe it or not, for this country with bill collectors. And one day it's going to come out on the show. But right now, it's teaching you the facts from the fiction so you totally understand it. Once it gets into the hands of the bill collector, naturally it goes into collections. Naturally you get your phone calls. And naturally it goes against you on the credit report as collections or profit and loss. And then that's when you sit down and you say, I'm in jail. 7 years, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing for 7 years. Wrong. Wrong. You don't have to. You can take off the handcuffs. You're not in bondage because you don't have to wait the 7 years to get that house, get that car, or even to get your credit back in order. Now, when that time came, when I was going to Harrisburg, I knew all this. I knew every secret out there. I went to Harrisburg. I've done everything with Congress. I learned every little step about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So I knew what every law was out there. But no one else did. I used to say on a TV show, I'm in the twilight zone. Because why do I know everything? I'm on this little island and no one else does. I'm the only one that knows everything. And all I can do is write books to educate the people or appeal on radio and television. Because everybody is in a hidden, under a rock. And then all these places came into existence. But I'll go back there what all these places and these existence were. So then, now as I said, it's in the bill collector's hands, charge off, collections, it's on your credit report. So you're not hostage for 7 years. Now here's what the law is. And please, get your pens, get your papers, keep on watching this over and over again, if you have to. Because this is the law. This is the law under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That once that account is turned over, you can, let's say the account was turned over and this bill collector's harassing you and everybody's harassing you, you owed a debt of $1,000. And by this time, it's up to $10,000. Interest, everything. You have the right as a consumer to dispute this. Bypass the creditors. They don't have your account. They can't even respond back to you. You have the right to dispute the amount. You have the right to dispute this account with the credit bureau. Now, let me tell you what the credit bureau's law is too. Once you dispute it with the credit bureau, their job is to investigate it with the original creditor, the ABC company. But the ABC company cannot respond back. They don't have your account. It's in the bill collector's hands. So it's the job of the credit bureau. So don't waste your time writing to everybody else. So it's the job of the credit bureau to investigate this under the law, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, with the original creditor. Now, this is the good news. The good news is that creditor cannot respond back to that credit bureau. I don't care if you say, I don't owe $5,000, I only owed $1,000. But the law states, if the creditor does not respond back to that credit bureau in 30 days, the account has to be deleted. Not 7 years, 30 days. They call me a miracle worker. I'm not a miracle worker. I wish I was, but I'm not. I'm just going by all the laws that affect you and what you should know. So I wanted to know, why is people paying? And who are they paying? Because I know they can't pay the creditor. Here's what happens once it gets into the bill collector's hands. These are the people that harass you. As I said, one day we're going to do a show on this. But these are the people that harass you into intimidating you. Now they're holding you hostage again. because they're threatening you now. Now they're threatening you with every trick in the book. That I'm going to attach your wages, I'm going to take your home, I'm going to put you in jail. And they're saying everything, and you're getting so scared because you want to be responsible, but you don't know what to do. Not knowing that it's easier to correct that credit. Now, one has nothing to do with the other. Correcting your credit has nothing to do with the bill collector harassing you. One has nothing to do with the other, because you may say, you may tempt this yourself. We sold a credit lifeline kit on QVC. It was my book and 6 CDs. And you can have all good credit, even you, if you did it yourself. You could have all good credit and still be harassed with bill collectors to the day you die. That's why I went to Congress, sat down with them, and said, hey, there should be laws out that these bill collectors can't come after you 10 years later, 20 years later. I think the bill was 2361, but this is the bill that all America should tell their congressmen they want passed. So these bill collectors can't come out of the woodwork. Now, what happens is people get scared. Now, even though your credit's all cleared. Now, does the credit bureaus work like that? Does the credit bureaus fix it just because you tell them to? No. And this is another fight that I had to fight with the system. When I started in 1987, when I wrote this book, there was 6 major credit bureaus. You didn't know that. Again, I thought I was in the twilight zone. I knew everything you didn't. And I seen all the illegal things that were happening. I seen what they were doing wrong. I seen how they were breaking laws. We went down to 3. So if you disputed something and the credit bureau would say, verify is accurate, boy, you know it wasn't accurate. I didn't owe them $10,000. I didn't owe them $1,000. I only owed them $500. So how could they say verified as accurate? Who were they verifying this with? They can't verify it with the creditor. Creditor doesn't have the account no more. So where's the common sense of the credit bureau? Where's the law? Where's the common sense? Where did this credit bureau get their information? You can't get your information. If I can't get the information, how are they supposed to get the information that it was verified as accurate? So the moral of that story is they want you to stop disputing. End of story. They want you to stop disputing. If you stop disputing, they don't have to answer you. But the law states they have to follow the law. And they weren't. But you didn't know it. And they know you don't know it. The employees are just major employees that they hire. They should go through a school, but there's no schools out there. This is going to be your school because you're going to know better. So what was happening is the credit bureaus would say, verified is accurate, hoping you would give up. Many of you, 90% of you, didn't have the time, would give up. And you did. They won, you lost. You lost your home, you lost your car, you believed them. And let me emphasize the word believe. So you believe them because we believe anything our government, anything everybody's telling us. The banks, we believe them. We're in another century, people. We're in another century. We don't believe anybody anymore because we see all the violations that was happening. Now, when I brought this book all over the world, what happened next? Well, the credit bureaus, they were bombarded with disputes. Well, they didn't like that either. Naturally, they're not going to like that. They have to hire more manpower. So, here's what happened. As I'm sitting back trying to educate you on all these TV and radio shows, writing books, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting back, and all these companies were coming out of the woodwork. I was so frustrated. In the 80s, I was so frustrated. And I was so frustrated because, 1, credit repair companies were coming out. 2, counsel services were coming out. 3, attorneys were even trying to take part of the action. Now, it's not that I was against credit repair companies. I wasn't, because they were doing a job that should have been done. The problem was they didn't know what they were doing. And some of them, presidents of companies that came in the woodwork, would contact me to say, what's the law here, Pearl? But then they would charge people thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. They say, I can do your credit. They didn't know what they were doing. And then all of them came out of the woodwork. Well, $99 for each one that we dispute and remove. Well, we're having a special today. $89. And then they would collect all the $89 worldwide, and then they go out of business. And that frustrated me. Frustrated me because I knew what they were doing, which was good for the people. But it was bad because they were in it for the greed, for the money, for the green dollar. Then I thought, well, you know what? I can't stand a council service, so I'm not going to put myself with them. But I also did not like the council services. Hey, we're free to the people. They were free. We're nonprofit and we are free. And I sat back and I did my homework on this. As I said, today's show, we're going to separate the facts from the fiction. Watch this over and over again if you have to till it sinks in. So the council services came out. Council services were nonprofit. They're still out there and they're free. But the more I searched them out, the more I did my homework. I said, who pays them? Who pays them? To me, they're a bill collector in disguise. Because they have to get their money. They're going to tell you to pay the bill collector. So who pays these people? And on top of it, they are on a credit report, paid collection. So I had appeared with them in a Philadelphia TV station. And I said, and I was on a panel with the president of the credit bureau, the president of the nonprofit credit counsel service. I was also with one of the consumers. And I said to the host, I would like you to do me the biggest favor. When we come back from commercial, ask that president of the council services, 1, who pays them? 2, is it corrected from the credit report? And she did. She did me that favor. And when she came back, she said, who pays you? That's 1. And is it going on a credit report, or is it still on a credit report as collections? And he had to be honest with her and say yes. He didn't like it. Well, at that point, they didn't like me. I really didn't care. Then my client was there. And the reason why my client was there, because of this book, In America is Bad Credit a Prison Term. And she was the one that asked me from day one to help her with her divorce. So she said to the credit bureau, how could you say even the law was 37 years? It's been 15 years. It's still on my report. And he said, sue us. They had to cut it out. That's why I don't like appearing on tape shows. I love live shows because they can't shut me up or they can't tape it or edit it out. And these shows are unedited. So I'm going to say it like it is when it comes to what is really going on out there when it comes to the service. So there was the council service. Then attorneys. Attorneys were getting in on the action. Some attorneys from Chicago, some attorneys from California, they would call me and they would say, hey, Pearl, can you teach us about this credit thing? And I did, but the problem was I stopped. Because after I taught them the roundabout basics, what was happening is they were opening up their own credit repair company and charging people $5,000 because they happened to be an attorney, quote. So then I put together the Credit Lifeline Kit, which was sold on QVC. My book, 6 CDs, where it's not that I couldn't sell it to attorneys, but I tried to watch who I sold it to. And I definitely did not want attorneys to buy it because I knew what they were going to do at the end. I knew they were going to go into business. And because they didn't, so I didn't do it this way. But now as you see, in the 20th century, what goes on with the attorneys. Now they're bill collectors. Back then, there was no attorneys. They were just bill collectors. It's the point to separate these facts. You don't have to be hostage for 7 years when the minimum is 30 days. There are so many laws out there. And now, as I said, we're down to 3 credit bureaus, 3 major credit bureaus. When we come back, I'm going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what these credit bureaus were doing behind your back so you didn't even know when we come back.
Consumers, are you being harassed by debt collectors? Whether you owe the debt or not, if you're receiving phone calls or letters from collection agencies or law firms acting as debt collectors, you, the consumer, have rights. I'm consumer protection attorney Kerry Flitter. You have heard me as a guest on Polto's show. There are federal and state laws that protect consumers from the tactics used in the collection of debt. Whether your debt is owed or not, whether you've made payment arrangements or not, you have rights. If you're receiving letters or calls from debt collectors, feel free to contact our office toll-free at 888-668-1225. We'll review the communication you've received from the collector or discuss any telephone calls. If your rights have been violated, we can bring legal action against the debt collector at no cost to you. Our telephone number is 888-668-1225 or visit our website, www.consumerslaw.com. That's consumerslaw with an S.com. This is Kerry Flitter, advocate for your consumer rights. The collectors have lawyers. You should have one too. Our number again, toll-free, Pennsylvania or New Jersey, 888-668-1225.
Welcome back to the Pearl Polto Show. We're talking about, let's separate the facts from the fiction today, and all the information that you've been getting on the internet, all the information you've been getting from your family, your friends, your neighbors. Today, we're separating the facts from the fiction. And if you have to watch this over and over again or tell your friends, please do so. This is why I'm making this topic so important. We're down now to the credit bureaus. We went to the 7 years and the 30 days, where you're not a miracle worker, as they call me, the miracle worker, when you remove something in 30 days. The credit bureau's job is it's to be deleted. So you can bypass all these creditors. They don't have your account. Just remember that. They don't have your account. The credit bureaus now, in the 80s, when I wrote this book, there were 6 major credit bureaus in this country. And naturally, we went down to 3. And you didn't even know it. But there was, let me give you an example, TransUnion, and they're from Chester. There was CBA, and they were from New Jersey, and there was Equifax. But CBA, now TransUnion is still TransUnion. And then there was CBA. Now, CBA, because I was educating the people about their rights, CBA was getting so many complaints to the Federal Trade Commission, so many complaints, so many lawsuit cases. So they had a choice. They had a choice of either cutting or negotiating with somebody else. And they did. They negotiated. CBA became sisters with TRW. Well, TRW said, great, we're with the big guys now. So it got to the point where you didn't know what you were doing when you were disputing, because it was CBA/TRW. Who am I disputing? How many bureaus do we have? They were one and the same. But if they confused you, you didn't have to dispute. You didn't know what you were doing anyway. You didn't know the credit laws. So CBA became TRW. But then they broke. I appeared on more national shows to let the people know that you had your rights. And then they got sued. And the Federal Trade Commission got many, many more complaints. They couldn't take it. They couldn't take it, so they even had to sell out, become brothers, sisters with another company, get affiliated with another company. What should we do? Well, instead of going under, they opened up another company, as we all know, called Experian. Well, Experian couldn't tag on CBA or TRW. They couldn't do it, so they had to stick with their own name and go by the book. And they're stationed in Texas. And then there was one more left, Equifax. Equifax, or CBI, as you call it, but it's one and the same. Me, personally, I'm also trying to put them out of business. And here's why. And maybe you will too, if you join forces. They also are a collection company. They own the sleaziest bill collection company in the country. So how can there be a conflict of interest with a credit bureau and a collection company? Senators know it. Congress knows it. Why is this allowed to happen? Because you, the people, we the people, allow this to happen. And this is why they're still in existence. What puzzles me is mortgage companies. Mortgage companies, when they pull up these bureaus, they know. And yet they'll go with Equifax. They'll go with another company. And yet I've done seminars for mortgage companies. They understand it. But they say, we have to go by a policy. Now, here's the crazy part with mortgage companies, so you understand. Let's say you're correcting your own credit. Your own credit now, because now you got the education. You're disputing with all three bureaus. You have your reports right in front of you. You deleted everything, and everything can be deleted but the word bankruptcy. If anybody tells you they can remove bankruptcy, cannot. Everything else, yes. Bankruptcy is the only thing that comes on a credit report, and one day we will do a show on the 10-year curse. I'm against bankruptcy for that reason. But when you dispute and you have all this, always keep copies. As I always say, keep copies. So now you have a mortgage company. You go for a mortgage. And a mortgage company is just like you. They're consumers. They may be an expert in the banking field, but they're not an expert in the credit field. Two different things. There's money, there's credit, there's banking. I'm not a money expert. I am not a banking expert, but I am a credit expert. So what makes these banks or mortgage companies think they're credit experts? And why I say that? If you go for a mortgage, they pull up what is called, and you hear the word all the time, tri-merge, in-file, tri-merge. You're hearing the words, but you really don't understand it. Here's how I explain it to you, so you do understand. When mortgage companies pull up a tri-merge, you own a shoe store on a street, and there's two other shoe stores up the street, competition with you. Why would you want to merge on a piece of paper or a newspaper that you're advertising all the shoe stores in one location? When I'm in competition with that next door shoe store, I don't want them. Why in the world would you merge with them if you're trying to make your business grow as a shoe store? Well, put these shoe stores as credit bureaus. Why would a mortgage company merge? Why would a mortgage company merge and put all of them together? That's one. Then it's called an in-file. Now, that's what it's called. Remember the word in-file. So if you have all three credit bureaus, that's what you show your mortgage company. That is what you show your mortgage company. I don't care if their policy is in-files. You show them the true credit reports. And then if they say sorry, then you say to them, well, no, I'm sorry. Because my right is I'm allowed to show you what the true credit bureau gave me and why you're the one that has to fix it. Because now you can sue that mortgage company for your whole mortgage. Remember that. Here's what's happening though. Because they're hiring loan officers that don't understand the system. And why I can tell you that is I've done many seminars for mortgage companies. I have many mortgage brokers that are my clients. So I know what they know and I know what they don't know. And it's pretty sad what they can do and what the people does not know. There's no schools out there. There are no schools out there, not even for the mortgage companies, to understand credit. So what I tell the mortgage company is, here's what I said to the mortgage company and when I did a seminar for them. I said, you ever tell one of your clients that's trying to get a refinance that they have to pay all these charge-offs? Well, then when they find out they don't, that it can be deleted and removed, they're going to hate your bank. and your bank's going to go under because now they got educated. So this is why mortgage companies, there's a handful of mortgage companies that understand it, and many mortgage companies do not. And why I'm saying that is when you go for a mortgage and you know you're that person, the mortgage company will say, well, it's settlement. You have to pay A, B, C, and D. It's off the report. Why do I have to pay A, B, C, and D? Because they pulled it up as an in file. And as a talk show host on a radio one time, my guest happened to be an employee from one of the credit bureaus. And I said to her, if you remove something from one of the consumers on a credit report, and the mortgage company pulled up what is called naturally an in file, why isn't it the same? Why doesn't it match? Her answer was, quote, because once something is deleted, it takes a while for the in files of these mortgage companies to show up. I said, well, isn't this a conflict of interest too, that people will be paying for something they don't have to pay for? Yeah. So now you understand why I get so frustrated. And when I get frustrated, what do? I write another book. Because I think this one's going to do it. And then I see that when it comes to your own backyard, that's the only time you do it. This is the only time. So there are, now when you have a credit problem, as I said, I went to the credit repair, went to the counsel services, then I went to the attorneys. Attorneys will charge $6,000, half of them don't know credit laws. Why? I have many of them I have as clients. But also you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. I sold on QVC, still sell it on my web page. It's my book, Credit Lifeline, all the letters and back the book. And I said, what can I do to make it easy for people? What can I do? Well, I know what to do. Do their homework for them. I can't take the whole world on as clients, and I'll never turn anybody away. But what can I do? So I set up, and I said, what can I do to help all America? Well, I found that solution when I wrote the Credit Lifeline book. What I did is I put all these letters in back the book. I made it so easy. I said, all you have to do is copy them. I'm making it easier for you. And then I'm going to give you CDs to listen to. So this way you'll know it step by step what to do. And then if you have a problem, and if you don't have the time, call me. Call me. Because I will call everybody back in the whole United States. As you know, my clients that are watching this can vouch to it. And I do, yes, take on clients. Because, yes, I know the ins and outs of it. I know everything there is to know about credit worldwide. Put me on anybody's show would have challenged me, and they can't and they won't. The president of the credit bureau said he'll never appear with me on a panel again. Wonder why. Wonder why. The counsel services, they don't like it, but they're not getting paid. So hello, they're not charging you, but they're being deceitful. To me, if you're not saying something to you, you're still being deceitful because they're assuming it's coming off a credit report, and you want two things. You want to be a responsible adult, and you want it off the credit report. And there are so many laws out there that I get upset. And I get upset. There's laws that, it's not that they're complicated laws under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. There's the Fair Credit Billing Act. If you owe a credit card company, if you owe a credit bill, and they're giving you a problem, or the store, let's say the store, you didn't like that merchandise. You have the right to contact that credit bureau under the Fair Credit Billing Act to say, I'm disputing this. 90 days, they have to investigate it. Are they telling you this? Are they knocking on your door? No, I'm knocking on your door. Are they knocking on your door to say, you have the right, you have 90 days to dispute this, and then we could take it off? The biggest problem in our country with the people is you pick up the phone. You pick up the phone because it's more easy in writing. And one day, one show, you're going to hear the craziest story in all of universe that you're going to hear on this show. And I'm not going to say it today, but maybe you'll understand when I say, don't pick the phone up. put everything in writing. And if everything is in writing, you have a file. So when you're trying to help yourself, when you're trying to get that mortgage, you have a file of all 3 credit bureaus. When you're trying to dispute, you have a file. Now, you're saying, but Pearl, I'm getting sued. I got judgments on my report. Can that be removed? Of course it can. Everything but the word bankruptcy. So if anybody says to you, and any credit repair companies out there, we can remove that bankruptcy, the answer is no. That's also the law. They cannot do it. So when I had the soldier on, when I had the doctor on last week, and I mentioned another law, the Sailor and Soldiers Relief Act. And by the way, please, people, you got to tune into that show. You got to donate $1. That serviceman said, Pearl, I'm still waiting for 5,000 people to donate or watch that show, and I will come on as a guest. He's got no legs, but he's still waiting. So am I. People, come on. Have a heart when it comes to this country. If I can have a heart in fighting for you, have a heart fighting for yourself or fighting for somebody that's coming from overseas. That show is done and over, and I really want this guy to come on. So I am begging you, go back to that show with that doctor on, what would you do for a cause? Watch the show, donate $1, and that'll say it like it is. So you are teaching him a lesson right now, all of the universe. But my lesson to the people is, I have been doing this. They have given me many titles. The female Rocky, the godmother of credit. They've given me so many titles. I don't want the titles. What I want, I get frustrated. Again, what do I have to do? As I said on show 1, what do I have to do to get your attention? What do I have to do to clean up your credit? What do I have to do to change this economy? And we're doing it. Believe me, with or without you, I'm going to do it. I'd much rather do it with you, because numbers count. Numbers count. And if I'm trying to fight a cause, and you are the cause, is changing this economy around. I have had many offers. In this last week, I've had offers. And I'm accepting all of them. I am accepting every offer that I get this week, and I have been accepting them. You know why? I think we needed a change. The last book that I wrote, this was the first one. The last one I wrote is also on my website, pearlpolto.net, is Are We Doomed? Enough is Enough. And this is the frustration that you hear out of me. Because from 1980-some, think about it. Just think about it. Okay, let me give you examples where you can understand. I found a cure for cancer in the 80s, and I know it's out there. And 30 years go by, people are dying every day. Can you imagine the frustration? And that show's going to come too. But this is the frustration that I'm having. I have educated many, many, many clients of my own clients that I take on as clients worldwide. I educate them through my books, but it's not making a difference. And I wanted to know, and some say to me, Pearl, you have made a difference. We got our home. We did, matter of fact, there was one story. I did a radio show. I'm a radio talk show host. And I did one story, and one person called me. And she called and she said, I have a credit problem. I need your help. And I talked to her, but I didn't know she was at a payphone. And I did help this woman. Still didn't know. She gave me a P.O. box, and that's how I took her as a client. And it was years later, she contacted me, and she said, I was that woman in that phone booth. I was homeless, and I gave you my brother's post office box. And now I have a home in California. You know what? That one little thing, as I said to her, that did something to me. That did something to me. So I will never turn a client away. And if you go to my website, there's a letter there. Go to my website, pearlpolto.net. There's a letter on testimonials. Here's a gentleman that called me, and he said, I need your help big time. I live in California. And I said, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you. He said, no, Pearl, I don't think you've seen any case like me. And I said, well, let's see. Well, he was right. There's a Privacy Act out there, but he sent me the testimonial letters. Well, when I started doing his credit, he gave me a promise. And that promise was if I helped him, he would fly me out to California. I would be on his TV show because he said he had a show, and I would do a seminar for his group. And that's all I heard from him. So it was another challenge, but they're all challenges to me because I'm trying to turn the economy around. Well, the first dispute, yes, I did. I gave him what he wanted. He got his refinance, and he called me up, and he said, I'm flying you out here to California. And not only am I going to fly you out here to California, I'm going to set people up. I want you to do a seminar here. I said, you know what? I'm going to take you up on it. I always wanted to go to California. I've been in every other state with seminars, not California. So I took him up on it. And when I was there, he took me all over. I stayed with his family. He took me to the police station, met the captain. And I'm thinking, who is this guy? Who is this guy? He knows everybody. Everybody's bowing down to him. And who am I? He's praising me for helping him. But I was still curious. And at the end of the journey, I said to him, because I was staying with him and his wife, and I said, I need to know now, who are you? What's your title? He said, Pearl, I didn't want to tell you. I'm the president of the NAACP. You helped me, and I want you to help everybody of members of the NAACP. And I got the chills, and I said, well, I'm giving you another title. I'm not going to call you the president of the NAACP. I'm going to call you the Godfather of California. That stuck with him. That stuck with him because I still call him the Godfather of California. Because, including myself, we all bowed down to this person, and I'm the one that helped him. And there's many, the rich, the famous, there's movie stars, and please, people, I don't care if you're poor, I don't care if you're middle class, and you see the movie stars, and you see the celebrities, and you say, I wish that was me. Well, let me tell you, you know the old saying, because the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Well, it goes to show in Hollywood, too. California. I have, as I said, if there was a Privacy Act, no Privacy Act, I'd have a bestseller book, who my clients are. But there is. And I respect it. Because I'm like the attorney or the psychiatrist that I cannot reveal anything. And I don't. And they tell me all their problems. But my job is to help them and correct it. But the more they have, the worse it gets. So if you have, let's say, 2 credit cards and they have 20, but they don't have the next movie, they don't have the next song or the next CD, or they don't have the right concert, it's going to affect them more because this is their job. This is their job. And many of them endorsed me on Credit Lifeline. Many of them did endorse me. They had the guts. They didn't have to, because I said to them, you don't have to. I know there's a Privacy Act. You don't have to say, I'm your client, whatever. But they were appreciative. And I respected them because I said, you know what, there's many people out there that don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. They don't want to, they're too embarrassed to say, I have a credit problem. And then those of you that say, well, I can't afford your service, Pearl, go on my internet. And here's what I'm going to suggest to you. Go on my web page, www.pearlpolto.net. You're going to see what I charge. Well, let's take $200 off anybody that does want to become my client. Let's take $200 off. But you have to tell me you watch this show. You have to tell me. And the reason why I'm saying this is when I do seminars, I do charge what's on my internet. And I'm going to say it. I charge $1,000 per person. And at a seminar, I will say to them, how many can afford my service? How many wants? How many has a credit problem? They all raise their hand. How many can afford my service? No, they can't. And then I say to them, I'm going to give you a brand new Mercedes. If you can come up with, let's say, $1,000 in 24 hours. How many could come up with $1,000 in 24 hours? They all raised their hand. I said, then why wouldn't you want to help yourself? to get that Mercedes and clear up your name. So I make them think that, you know what, they have to start, their self-esteem is so low because of the credit problems, because I hear the same stories over and over again. And I say, I don't want to be ignorant, but this is a repeat. I've had good credit. I have doctors saying to me, you don't know I've had good credit for 30 years. And I would say, yes, I do understand. I know everybody tells me the same thing. Not that I don't believe you. But when it comes to a credit report, I'm like a surgeon. I am like a surgeon. And that surgeon is seeing everything that you've been doing. You don't even have to lie to me. There's no need to lie. I'm going to see it anyway. And then my job is to help you. So then years ago, I became a paralegal. Nothing to do with law. It had to do with, I wanted to see what the attorneys knew about credit. Nothing. They know bankruptcy laws. We do have a consumer protection attorney. If you hear my radio shows, you heard the commercial. That's all he does is sue bill collectors. And thank God for him. Not only thank God for him, God works in strange ways, because it wasn't a lot of money when you sue a bill collector, but he did it for a cause as well. And I respect him for it. And then I respect certain couple mortgage people that are with me. They brothered with me. They're sisters with me. And they're a part of it. And I am strict. If you are my client, you're going to say, hey, Pearl's you're either going to love her or hate her. But there's many people out there with the mortgage companies, and I'm strict. And I am strict because I have an expression. As fast as you are, I'm faster. And if I have people in my company, my organization that I'm affiliated with, that is not as fast as me, I don't want them, because you're important. And I'm not going to have a 30-year reputation, and they're going to put it down the drain because they didn't get back to you. And then you hear 50,000 people. Well, not me. I work 24/7. As I just was on the phone with a bank, a credit card company, I said I work 24/7. Because my goal this year is to try to change the economy. And with your help, I will. And I'm going to. With or without your help, I'm going to. Because we have too many problems in this country. I have the solutions. I have the answers. I sat down with Congress. I have all the answers even to change the economy around. They don't want to hear it? Well, that's what made me think 10 years ago, our government did not want solutions. They did not want to have people, suppose everybody had good credit. Just suppose everybody had good credit. What would they do? I think they'd have a problem. But instead, or all the banks out there, they're saying, I don't want your money. I don't want that $100. I don't care if you can pay me $25. I don't want the $100. Well, guess what? You can kiss them goodbye, because 10 years from now, they're out of business. So they're hurting themselves. So you think they're hurting you. They're hurting themselves. Every time they charge off an account, how many can they charge off? How many accounts can they charge off before they go out of business? How many bill collectors are still in business? So you have to sit back to say, even though I owe money, I want to be responsible. I want to pay my bills, but I'm having problems. I want my credit corrected. I want my new mortgage. I want that mortgage is 3%. Come on, President. I mean, 3%, we all want the 2%. But people, 1 out of 2 people has credit problems in this country. Wake up. Wake up, America. Enough is enough. Because we need to know how to change this economy. I believe after this show tonight, you know how to do it. But the only way, pass the word around. I know how to change this economy, and I'm going to do it. As I said, with or without your help, I'm going to try to do it myself. And I've started already. I've gotten many phone calls of people that want to be affiliated. And I love it, because this is one step closer than putting a little circle. And guess what would happen? If we changed the economy around and everybody had good credit, well, then the house rates would go back up. Naturally, the appraisals of the house. And if the interest rates stay as low, the banks could stay in business. The credit bureaus won't go under. And our Congress will have a little bit more respect for them because of it. So I want to say to everybody out there, if this is too much to absorb, listen to it again and again and again until it sinks in. Because this is one time I wanted to explode the whole United States and all of this country. Other countries are watching this, so that now they know. They know our ups and downs. Also, but I'm going to remind you, not to change the subject, but I will remind you, we got some really great shows coming up. Next week, we got a really interesting show coming up. It's how can you correct your credit and buy a home if you don't speak English? Is it the Spanish community hurting because of the language barrier? We also have a show coming up. One of the shows is going to be, I told you I was going to picket in front of the post office if they're closing. And they closed right after that girl came on here. Well, right after the employee came on, they closed it on Saturdays. Won't let this happen. We're going to picket, but we're going to tape it at the same time. We're also going to be doing a show on scams. Boy, it's the biggest scam around. I just got text the other day that I won $50,000 from Best Buy. Scam. I didn't respond back, and I'm glad I didn't. It's a scam. They're all over the place, but that show is going to be one solid thing. We're also going to do a show on the 10-year curse, what I call bankruptcy. And June 6th, mark this date down, world-renowned psychic. I'm going to be right here. You don't want to miss this show. She's going to tell you what's really going on in this world. World-renowned psychic. Write this date down, June 6th, on your calendar. It's going to be live. And anybody out there, pass this information to your friends, to your family. As you see, I'm passionate with this. As you see, it's a cause. Speaking of that, the people in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and in New Jersey, if you're watching that there, I am on the Trudy Haynes Show. This is her new show, Bounce. So if you're out there and you're local, I'm on again tomorrow night at 7:30. So, but you can catch all this on my website. Go to my website, www.pearlpoltoshow.net. If you wish to become my client, I'm going to make it easy for you. 1-800-876-CREDIT, C-R-E-D. All you have to do is call. You can email me right from the website. You can give me your name, you can give me your address, and you could say, Pearl, here's my name, here's my address. Send me out your information. Now, what's my information? I send you a priority mail package. It's all about me. It's all about the service. It's what to expect. And expecting it, and I always say, sit back and enjoy the ride. Let me take care of you. I will take care of the bill collectors that's harassing you, the credit report, the mortgages. And I'm a consumer advocate for credit rights as well, but I'm also a consumer advocate for your needs. And the reason for that is many people were having problems all across the country. They couldn't afford attorneys. There's a lot of things they couldn't afford. So they needed my expertise and as a consumer advocate and as a paralegal to direct them. And I will call you up, and that's my promise. If you email me and said, I want to become your client, but I want a phone call from you, I want to talk to you, you will hear my voice. You will not hear my secretary. You will not hear my workers. I will personally call you up. As I said, I work 24/7. I have to because I'm on a mission. And I'm passionate about this mission. And anybody out there, banks, real estates, mortgages, if you want to help the people, get your act together and become consumer-oriented. The rest, nature will take its course. I want to thank everybody for listening to the Pearl Polto Show again. And I hope this show puts a dent in your heart to pass the word around and not just listen to say, I got a credit problem, too embarrassed. This is Pearl Polto, as always, making the most of your credit, giving credit where credit's due. This week, it's to me. See you next week.
Interest